Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. It's really a pleasure, especially that I know that it's quite early still to be there. In the following, I guess, more or less than an hour, we will like to give you a slight introduction to the Hungarian market. And for the same topic, we have two guests. My name is David, and I'm responsible for the expert bureau called HOTS, or Hungarian Oncoming Tunes. And please meet Peter, as he's the trustee for the Hungarian Association for the IMMF League, and also Magda, who's also the coach and the progress. How should we say it? What we
process design.
The process designer between Outbreakers Lab and initiative we have basically for songwriters, which we will introduce in the second half of this panel. So for the first, I'd like to have some questions for Peter, and obviously we will give a spare time in the end of our meeting for you, where you can ask basically anything what you're curious about the Hungarian market. And my first question is quite simple, because you're also a manager, you also have your own label, and obviously you're multitasking all the time. But compared to Poland, the domestic market in Hungary is quite smaller, to be honest, and due to that reason you need parallel presence on surrounding markets as well. And how can you handle that, and what did you learn from that phase, that you need to be aware to appear with your acts on Hungary and also to build them up on an international level?
Yes, hello everyone. It is a small market, and you really need to be a man of all trades to try and make it in any sense. So I think at the moment Hungary is experiencing a really exciting time. So it's a bit of a thrill to be in the music industry at the moment. I think that's down to two things. One is sort of a genuine organic buzz that is going on. There's a lot of young people coming into the scene, young artists, and also managers and people involved in that side of things. And these guys are really focused on making it on the international scene. So they speak good English, they've sort of self-taught themselves a lot of skills. They go and network a lot. They go out to a lot of these events. I'm sure you've met quite a few Hungarians in the past few years. So there's this grassroots things happening, which is really good, I have to say. And on the other hand, there's also a system of funding that's been put in place, and it's been working for years now, and you can see the effect. So you get a lot of opportunities to get financed for various projects you would do, ranging from creating content, making your first album, creating video content, onto touring and live and support for getting out there, getting on the road. And now we can sort of see some fruits that are beginning to bear through this. Answering your question, because I'm not sure that was an answer. So how to manage? Yeah, it's a small word, and you need to take care of yourself in all aspects. So as you said, yes, I'm managing bands. I'm also working as a label for some of them. I'm also booking a lot of them, ourselves. So I think that's one of the biggest and most striking differences between the music industry of the region or Hungary and the more established markets of the Western world, is that you don't have specialized companies, because the market is just not strong enough. So there's not enough money to sort of make you survive if you're only concentrating on one aspect of the business. So, and this is something I learned when I first started going out to events like this, or mainly in the Western world, Medium and Eurosonic. I was surprised to see that how many of these managers and people I meet are sort of coming from a much stronger background in terms of business. So in Hungary, going into business with the music is still sort of looked upon as a bit of a bohemian kind of a bit of an adventurous career choice, whereas I guess in the wealthier parts of Europe and America, of course, this has been for a long time. It's been a career path that can be really serious. You know, big companies, big money, good salaries, and sort of safety and just a more predictable environment.
And if you try to think with the hand of a Polish manager or a Polish artist, what would you think that what's the easiest way to enter the Hungarian market on basically about performance level? Because we can be all aware of that in the Central Eastern market the highest incomes are coming from performance rights. Yeah. But on the other side, what would you suggest for a fresh Polish artist? Where should they start it? Because from the last 2 or 3 years we were also aware that acts as Fismolk, Xanax, Coles or Boca as well could play several shows in Hungary, but what would you suggest from your angle?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So the main income or the biggest chance to make any money is playing live and going out on the road. And I think the Hungarian scene is most established in that sense. So the best sort of infrastructure or ecosystem of the business is the live scene. So you get all these you have all these very well-known festivals, Sziget and the rest, and then it trickles down, and there are mid-level festivals, and there is a club scene that is viable for bigger artists, smaller artists. I mean, it always could be better, but at least there is a scale that you can use. And I've seen for the past years that some boutique festivals and smaller specialized festivals have already also established themselves. So entering the Hungarian market through that scene is probably the way to go, because there's actually events that you can approach. But also I think it is now, just like anywhere else, it's also about what's the buzz online. So all these kids are looking at YouTube and what have you, all the social media. So, and they're not really asking where you're from. So if it's a cool video, they like the music, it gets picked up, it gets a lot of plays. Then wherever you're from, you're going to have a good chance of maybe getting some gigs there. The weaker part is, and that's a problem, I think. The weaker part is that there is little or close to none of companies that could help an act come into the Hungarian market as a label, distribution, promotion, marketing. So that's where we're struggling. I think actually one of the biggest problems, and this is something I face on a daily basis through my work as a label, is just the media landscape in Hungary. So for those of you who are not familiar with this, we're a nation of 10 million people, and we have got, I think at the moment, there's 2 national radio stations that play contemporary music or pop music. There are about 2 music video channels that you can use as a TV. Print media is basically totally vanished, no print media for music at the moment. And that leaves you more or less with online. So you can go and build your own social media, and maybe if you've got some money, you can spend it on marketing online. But even in the online world, you don't have much of a music presence. So there's a couple of specialized sites and blogs, but they're not too popular. So if you want to sort of make an impact through content, you're more or less left to YouTube and the likes of that,
But on the other aspect, if we're going a bit down like to an independent scene, for example, when Brodka made it to the cover of Recorder magazine, do you think that can also have an impact, especially to raise awareness?
Yeah, yes, it definitely helps, but it's small in scale. That's my point here. So you know, sort of to cross over from, there's a couple of hundred people interested in new music and who would look at Recorder and say, oh, okay, this is cool, they're on the cover, versus the masses or the bigger slice of people who would actually maybe go out and go see your music if they would know that you are about, you know.
And speaking of specific events, because the Hungarian festival market is getting stronger and stronger year by year with diverse lineups and specific genres, on the other side we can also name that there's life outside of Budapest as well, because for some reason most of the international shows are happening in Budapest, but compared to cities as Debrecen, Szeged or Pécs, where you're actually coming from, there's also a renewing vibe. And can you tell us a bit more about what's happening on Pécs nowadays?
Yeah, happily, because I'm a bit of a local, is it a word in English? Local patriot? So, like someone who's part of his city. Yeah, for those of you, again, you're not that familiar with Hungary, this is one of the structural problems is, we've got Budapest, 2 million people, and then down the line it's Debrecen, 400,000 people. So there's no middle ground. It's basically one city and a couple of bigger towns. So there's a you know, something that we need to sort of live with, try to work around. So yes, outside of Budapest, I think there's a couple of interesting things. Before I go on to Pécs, I have to mention one of my favorite festivals for a long time has always been Veszprém Utcazene Festival, which is street music festival in a small town close to Lake Balaton, which is just an amazing concept. It sort of was founded on the idea that why don't we get a lot of buskers, street musicians in town for a week, and then we'll set up these micro stages on every street corner, and they can play, and then we'll get people there. And it just became such a success, and it has been going strong for a long time. So I recommend for anyone who's in Hungary in the summer to check that out. It's a really unique vibe. And yeah, going on to Pécs, there's two things I'd like to mention. One is a festival that's happening every January, so in the beginning of the year when it's all dead and quiet and cold. A couple of guys had this idea of doing what I would call a showcase for the local scene. So it's anyone who plays in any band in Pécs can apply, and they will have an opportunity to play on a stage. And this goes on for 2 days. And for a town that is the size of 130,000 people, you had more than 100 bands play last year. And okay, some of it is just going to be some old geezers getting together and, you know, dusting off that old guitar and playing some blues. But then some of it is just young kids doing whatever they do and getting an opportunity to play on stage. And they've also started now to build bridges internationally. So, for example, this year they've invited Liverpool Sound City guys, and they've had some acts come over and also some people from the industry. So they've started building up these relationships, which is, I think, really good. And
it's also important to add that Pécs is basically the Hungarian alternative for Liverpool. But I'm sure that Poland also have its own Liverpool as a music city.
Yeah, I think the reason David says that is because a lot of the emblematic big bands that are big in Hungary have come from Pécs historically. So going back like 20 years, every like 5, 4, 6 years there's a new band which makes it really big on the Hungarian scene, and which comes from Pécs. So that's kind of true and funny in a way. So yeah, the event I'm organizing is called Pécs City Carnival. And it goes back to me spending time in London and going to Notting Hill Carnival and thinking, wow, this is just the best thing on earth. You know, I had such a great experience in experiencing sound system culture and the whole Caribbean, West Indies vibe. And I have a good friend who was more or less raised in New Orleans, the US, and he went to Mardi Gras a lot of the time. So we just sort of started speaking a couple of years ago, and said, well, what the hell, let's do a carnival in Pécs. And it happened 5 years ago, and it's going on, doing it the 6th time this year It is sort of trying to keep in tradition with these events that I mentioned, so Notting Hill and Mardi Gras, in the sense that we're trying to transform the city streets into one big street party throughout the day. A lot of sound systems and stages set up all around town. And this whole thing sort of shows my approach to doing anything in the music business, which is trying to not do what everyone else is doing. So there's a saying in Hungary that Hungary is the land of the million festivals. I think there's an actual number that says there are more than, I don't know, like 1,000 festivals happening in Hungary, which is free for each day of the year. And so doing festivals has really become ridiculously so widespread, and a lot of it is just copy paste, the same formula, you know. And I think the ones that are going to stand out and going to be more interesting and more successful are the ones that are doing something on their unique ways.
But at the same time, when you're giving back something to the community, you're also responsible for the acts you manage and you stand behind. And can you just give some kind of a short just the possibility to take a look about basically the financial background? That's you as a manager, how can you stand and support the acts through the open application and possible sponsorships, and what are your experiences? How does sponsorship work in Hungary nowadays, and what kind of opportunities do you have through open funding?
Yes, well, as a manager you are going to look everywhere to get some support, maybe financial or other terms, and we've been working with brands quite a lot. So throughout my work as a music manager, I think we've worked with most of the big consumer brands, international brands in Hungary, from Coca-Cola to Red Bull to Sony to I'm not sure I can say alcohol here, so I'm not going to say one of the big whiskey brands. Anyhow, so, and also domestic big companies, banks, and what I found is that there's a real appetite for brands to partner up with bands, because they're they lend them some authenticity, genuine faces that the young audience, their target audience, recognizes and identifies with. So I'm sure there's a lot of these marketing meetings going on in these big corporations saying, well, we need someone who all the kids will believe. And who are they? Well, today's heroes are the musicians, so still the rock star rules. So there's some opportunities to be had in this area. The business model, so how does it work, and how do you fund all this? Is as we already said, a lot of it is relying on the live scene. So as we also said, there's quite a good ecosystem of live opportunities for bands. So apart from festivals, there's maybe one thing I would sort of highlight is that. There's a big open-air club in Budapest now, which is, I think, maybe one of the biggest open-air clubs in Europe. Is it?
Basically the biggest one.
The biggest one. It's called Budapest Park, and it's a 10,000 plus capacity venue, which is open from May till end of September. And so that just, it's sort of like a festival that goes on for 4 months, and you've got good opportunities there if you've got an audience. And we've been playing that venue throughout the years a lot, and also all the big festivals. So in terms of how to go about it, we really obviously focus on the summer. That's the biggest source of income for us through the live sector. So spring and autumn you would do clubbing, and there's quite a few of these local open-air events, even in spring and autumn, so like Gastro Festival, Beer Festival, City Festival,
University Festival.
A lot of university festivals. So you do those as one-offs, and then go on the festival circuit for all of the summer, if you could. That accounts to about 70% of all our income as a band, and then the rest is It's made up of selling records, and I mean that in a broader sense, so everything from YouTube to actual physical records. We're now doing one of my artists is doing a big physical release just this Monday. So doing that, and then everything with the DSPs online. Then you would have merchandising, which is a tricky business because you need to invest a lot before you can start making money. But if you're doing it right and you stick to it and sort of try and make it work, it can be an actual source of income. So there's actual real money in that still, and but you must know this. So I'm not trying to explain the obvious, but just going through this. So yeah, live releases, merchandising, brands and sponsorships, and also funding.
And about the fundings, what was the easiest scale for you to succeed with? For example, there are open applications where acts can fund for releasing the first albums or to record new music videos and also to go on tour. Which one is the most useful for you?
Well, I manage different bands, acts on different levels of their career. So for my most established clients, one of the biggest bands in Hungary, we had an application that said, that was put up explicitly for a anniversary, sort of looking back compilation kind of project, which we were actually doing anyway. So that's just now sort of is taking shape. And then for some of the bands I manage who are in the more of a beginning phase of the career, it was really helpful to get funding for their first album, their first videos, you know, the kind of that's the initial push to get the ball rolling, and then you're supposed to make it on your own, which I'm totally cool with, because I do think it should not be a handout that you base your whole existence on. It's that helping hand that sort of can help you with your first baby steps, and then you can go on. So we've done quite a few of those, and then also we went on the road, backed by funding a couple of times outside of Hungary. And yeah, so I think it's a good toolkit. There's if you're clever about it, you can see, okay, this bit could be useful for this project I'm doing. That bit can be useful for that, and you can choose and try and succeed that way.
And speaking of a Central Eastern European point of view, where would you position also Hungary and Budapest Showcase Hub, the showcase event that our country has in November? And what can you learn basically from the surrounding countries, from the professionals and the professional events like Spring Break or Ljubljana, Waves Vienna, Sharp, Mastering the Music Business, or Novel Prague? Which are the biggest benefits that you can earn as a manager, and what you can learn from the surrounding market?
Yeah, this is a bit of a fresh, new experience for me. I've been selected to be head of the Hungarian Music Managers Forum last December, so I'm relatively new to this, but we've been working with IMMF, and we're exactly now in the process of trying to see how these networks can help each other and what is there to gain. And I'm already seeing that, you know, if we can sort of put down actual practical issues, so ask the right questions from our managers on our own market, and we can do the same. IMMF can help us do the same around in the region, and we're going to probably identify a handful of topics that are, you know, all the managers in the region are interested in, but regarding which they're going to be on a different level of finding a solution to, you know. So I would say trying to position Budapest or Hungary on the map. I think we are pretty in pretty sort of early stage of development. For example, if you look at each aspect of the business, so for example, going to showcases, that's something that's been happening a lot these past years, so Hungarian bands are doing good in that sense. Going from showcase to actual gigs in bigger festivals, that's already happening now. Only there's a couple of examples, no big main stage success story yet. And then if you look at recorded music, so any albums, singles, or just any music or videos that sort of made it through the invisible line of popularity. Well, there are maybe one or two examples in the past, but nothing too sort of established and something that you can see there's a trend going on. So in that sense, we're still pretty much just waking up and trying to climb that ladder. So in different aspects of it, there are different levels of how achieved this whole industry is. But having said that, Bush in itself, so Budapest Showcase Hub, I think has really sort of put Budapest on the map. My personal experience in going to the last two Bush events was that they do exactly what I think should be done, which is get people who are actually working in this industry in there and them giving specific practical advice to managers and everyone involved. So, for example, there's this one project they do at Bush which is called Gran Turismo. Last year it was focusing on the CE region. I think this year it's going to be Germany. Anyhow, so they would get in a good bunch of promoters and set up a speed meeting kind of environment for managers to go around and say, hey, this is my band, blah, blah, blah. Do you think we can play in your club? We can play at your festival. So, and it's really sort of, practically good. It's not wasting your time. It's making good sense of your time. Also, the panels and presentations I attended were full of actual, good takeaways. So I could find actual answers to some of my questions. How do you go about doing good PR? How do you go about getting onto playlists? How do you go about online marketing? And there's a lot of knowledge there. So I think it's really good, and I hope a lot of you will come next year. And I'm not being paid by Bush, full disclosure.
I think that we can move on to the next topic now, and we bring for first and after movie. I'm not sure that can we see it already or not, but in the forthcoming 20 minutes we will have a discussion about Outbreakers Lab.
Who's gonna swing across the channel? You know I'm gonna. I'm a strong swimmer. Who's gonna swim across the channel? I'm a strong swimmer. I'm a strong swimmer. Will you follow me, boat? You should not say such a dumb thing. You're such a lazy boy who never does anything like this. Why did you wonder? You stay in the lighthouse. Am I right, boy? Am I right? Why did you wonder? You stay for a long time. For when I will not turn back.
Thank you for that. So I guess now we can move on with Magda about the whole topic, because you could see that a lot of people just talk to each other for 2 minutes, and we will give some context for that. So my first question would be that how can you describe your role in the preparations of Outbreakers Lab?
So, can you hear me? Thank you. So, after seeing this movie, I would say I was a person responsible for all this running and clapping there. I had a multiple role on Outbreakers Lab. I was there a process designer, like you introduced me in, at the beginning, and what in fact it means that I was looking at the whole event, educational event, as some kind of journey, and I was thinking and analyzing how it should look like what should be the puzzle of sessions with mentors, meeting, workshops, and everything to have the best effect for the artists. So what we should start with, where we should start our journey, from which point we should set off, and how we should proceed with that to have the best outcomes for artists, and how we should learn to also leave the artists fulfilled and inspired and full of energy and motivation to work, and with, of course, concrete tools and information. So that was one of the things I was invited to do on Outbreakers Lab. I was also a trainer. I was running an opening workshop that was concentrated on vision and goal setting, and I think that was a good move to do, a good decision, because we started with something that participants was not expecting of, that they will be let's say invited to create a long-term vision for their career, and also set goals for the whole event. Thanks to that, we could really focus on what is the most important for every event. And I was also an art coach, so I was running coaching sessions for the artists.
And for the last summer, it was more like a pilot event, and the only thing that we were aware of that we really want to give an opportunity to invite as much international professionals to host and also educate songwriters and managers on a certain level, to let them improve themselves or to earn some kind of a self-awareness as how should they proceed in their career. But what were your expectations when you started all the preparations and when you arrived to that small village called Magda, which is approximately 200 kilometers away from Budapest?
Good question. I didn't have any expectations about the artist. I was very much open to the whole experience. I thought from the first moment I've heard of it, I was very excited. I thought that it's a great idea that I was even myself looking for before we met, and when I heard about it. It's a great idea to take people really from their natural city Budapest environment, cut them off a little bit from their everyday experience, cut off from Instagrams, Facebooks, and also cut them off from their habits of thinking, I think. As you've seen, we were in a beautiful place, and it was really a village. There was one main street that we could see maybe one car per hour. So it was very silent and very calm, and it created just a lovely context for this work, because they could concentrate on things that they do not have time to think of on the everyday basis, right? So they are concentrated on proceeding with their plans, but they don't have time to really rethink sometimes the plan and what they want to focus on or what they want to achieve, what is now important, how to deal with the problems in the band that are occurring. They are just, fixing the things as quickly as possible and concentrated on actions, but they don't have so much space, and space that is like prepared think that especially prepared for them to think, okay, I have a moment to think. What I really want to do, am I going in the right direction? Do I want to proceed with that? Or I want to change? So that was great, and everything was prepared to have that space, like all the workshops, all the events, all the panels, and all the work with mentors, like to really give people, a place for that.
And what did you face as the biggest challenges from the songwriters aspect? What were the biggest lack of something that you realized as you've met basically a dozen Hungarian songwriters who were motivated, but they also needed someone to guide them?
I found a very interesting problem that they deal with, and I suppose it's somehow connected with the Hungarian scene also. Maybe you will have a different impression after what I will say, but there were many bands who were in a moment of some kind of change that they didn't know what to do with. They were after a few years of playing, a few years of playing dozens of shows. They were in a quite good position on the market. They had their audience. They didn't need to fight for the audience. They had people who go after them, and they felt, the artist felt that something is finishing. Some kind of formula is not working for them anymore, and they are starting to copy themselves. And there was one their leg was in the career. And in the situations that they've been for quite some time, and the other leg was in this future upcoming ideas. That okay, I need to change. I want to do something completely different. I want to change a team. I want to change a band, or I want to start a new solo project, or completely, deconstruct what I was doing till that moment. That there was a conflict in that. They was like still one leg is in the past and another leg was in the future, and they were like a bit stuck, And from my conversations with them, it was occurring that they're also afraid of, of course they are afraid of risk of doing something new, getting out from the comfort zone, but they were also afraid of losing their audience, starting everything from the scratch. That change may completely change their position and visibility on the market. So when I was comparing that with Polish industry, I have a feeling, maybe I'm wrong, but I have a feeling that in Poland we don't think so much and we don't hesitate so much. People are all the time constructing new collaborations, and they have even too much ideas to focus on. They change bands, they start new projects. Every person is sometimes having 3 or 4 projects going on at the same time. So I felt that Hungarians, they are more, they are not. They are afraid of making this, risky steps.
And on an artistic level, do you find it counterproductive about how can they renew themselves as an artist? And do you find it counterproductive on an artistic scale? As how can they renew themselves on the local or on the international market?
I don't know, but I think that it would be good for them if they would just make the step, just try, just be trying, not thinking, and still being in this hesitate position, and try to be more bold and more courageous, and if you feel doing that, just try it. You can always change your mind. It's not like the end of the world. Just try, instead of being I'm here. I'm not happy anymore. I don't feel joy here anymore. But so the motivation. Then there are some consequences because there is a lack of motivation to proceed with the project. I don't feel any more committed to it. So also communication problems in the band, comes up with that. So it's just like stopping a natural process of development. You need to change. You need to go forward. And if you feel that this is not the story anymore for you, you will not succeed.
Can I just pitch in? My experience as a label, and this is really frustrating for me, is a lot of the time the artists I'm working with will sort of self-censor themselves or adopt this way of thinking of what I do needs to be commercially viable. So this is not going to get a radio play.
Yeah.
And so I'm in this really funny situation where, as a label, I am telling them to, no, that's not what you want to do. You want to be original and daring and exciting, whereas, traditionally this would be the other way around. And it's just amazing how their perception of success trickles through their creative work. And I think it's horrible in a sense, because it's just crazy. It's they're setting their own boundaries, and what that leads to is a lot of the music coming out nowadays is just safe. And I'm saying that in a bad way. Don't be safe.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why Outbreakers Lab was an outbreak for them, because finally there were a bunch of people, mentors, organizers, who were there to say, okay, just say it. When I was running session with artists, sometimes I needed to spend a little bit of time really to open them and to encourage them to name their needs, name their dreams, name their visions and goals. And the moment it was named, they were like, wow, like an extreme energy was starting to circulate in them. So always also that's why Outbreakers Lab worked for them, because we know after feedback and what we've seen, what is happening with the bands after Outbreakers Lab, something is going on, something is changing. People are developing themselves because they had the chance, they had the space to talk about it and to take it out, and widen their horizons and see something else they didn't see before.
I have two more questions before we will pass the mic to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to ask that as Outbreakers Lab is not a formal songwriter camp or any kind of a lab. Did you miss music on that level? Because just for as a short notice, Outbreakers Lab was based on the personal trainings and the open sessions, and even if some musicians bring acoustic guitars, they didn't really have time or space to play music. So did you miss music at all, or not?
No. We had the team of mentors, we had different opinions about that. I was the person saying that we shouldn't give the music then and leave it without jam sessions or any kind of these moments and events because it's working for them, because it's such different environment, and I think it worked good for them because they became very focused, very concentrate, very relaxed. When I was thinking about what are my goals, for this camp, I was thinking about the context that we need to really use this village sun, free time, because brain loves this kind of environment if we are talking about creativity. We had the former panel about how music makes you sick, and there was also a topic about creativity. And what we should know about creativity, that our brain needs a little bit of relaxation and a rest to really produce new, fresh and inspiring ideas. And it's just our biology. It's nothing new. It's how we as human beings works. So I knew that the more fun and joy we will put into these workshops, panels, sessions, the more and the better for musicians. And I was a little bit afraid that, music and playing live and presenting to themselves on a, music level may bring some, competition element. They are again in their role that they play in everyday life. And we could see a huge difference before beginning at the end, because at the beginning, when we are leaving all together, mentors and bands and musicians, Budapest, the couch, the bus was divided. At the beginning of the couch, there was a mentor section, like few people talking to each other, and at the end of the bus, far from the mentors, any exchange, bands and musicians, but sitting in their own circles. This is my manager, we are together. And when we were coming back, it was, loud, everybody was laughing, exchanging, and artists were talking with other artists, setting up new ideas, collaborations, exchanging ideas, mentors with artists, everything was, mixing up. And I think we all felt that during these 3 days we had a enormous a transfer of energy, knowledge, tools, skills, inspiration, because there was also space to talk what I feel, what I want, what I'm looking for. Finally they could talk about it amongst each other, and that was really, really open-minded for them.
Especially that it was quite visible that all these songwriters arrived mostly as competitors, but they left the small village as they united, and they represent a new and fresh generation of the Hungarian music. But speaking of the present and the future of Outbreakers Lab, can you let us know about the plans of this year's edition and what will be changed and what will be stick to the plan?
Can we do that together? This year there are some innovations that we are happy about. So first of all, the Outbreakers Lab is becoming international. So it's not only a Hungarian event. We are inviting people from Poland. Help me with that. Poland,
Italy,
Slovenia, Slovakia,
Austria,
Italy,
Netherlands, Czech Republic, and Slovakia.
Yeah. So if you are interested in participating in this project, we will open a gigmit application on Monday. So we are looking for emerging artists and artists who need this, stepping from one, who need some inspiration for upgrading their career, or who need some inspiration for change that they need to develop as an artist. And we also invited new mentors that we are very, very happy about. Last time we were working in four
was in the end.
There were 4 mentors. Daryl Bamonta from Schubert Publishing.
Valentin came from Ink Music. He's an Austrian manager, and also how did we pronounce? Andries from Freest Music from the Netherlands.
Yes, and this year will join us Julia Giampolo from the manager of Joycat, and Andras Kaiser from Men Festival, and who else?
I guess we can tease it later as well, but we will have an increased and diverse palette of mentors, and all the applications will be open next week through Gigmit. So the basic idea was that we really want to unite the surrounding country songwriters to share and exchange ideas and inspire each other. And I hope that it will be some kind of the biggest that kind of a mentoring event in the Central Eastern market in the forthcoming years.
We would love to.
I think that we merely reached our time, so we want to ask, do you have any questions about basically Hungary or the lab itself?
Sziasztok! Lengyel vagyok, de egy kicsit beszélek magyarul. Szeretném mondani, hogy beszélek magyarul egy kicsit nélkül, de ez nagyon néhány nyelve, és ez nem fontos, de csak szeretném tájékoztatni, hogy
király vagy.
Szuper. És fogok beszélni angolul, mert könnyebb lesz nekem. I would like to ask you, I don't know if it's going to be a stupid question or not, but if it's compulsory, necessary to create in particular language like Hungarian and English to play on the road, to play in Hungary. And the second one, could you repeat this Basket festival in Hungary, because I didn't hear the name, and
which language to create in it? That's a question I keep asking myself every day, you know, so what I found is Hungarian domestic market loves their Hungarian acts. So the biggest acts in Hungary are all in Hungarian, singing in Hungarian. How to get out of Hungary? Well, to be honest, I really don't see a chance for, that might just be me, but I really don't see a chance for a Hungarian language act to break it big. So it's good to be in English, but that's just how it is, isn't it? So, but you know, go ahead and prove me wrong. I'll be applauding you if you can do it. So, the other thing, Veszprém, and this is funny. I just found this in Wikipedia yesterday. This the Buskers Festival. It's in a town called Veszprém, which got its name from a person from Poznan, which I just found. In the 10th century there was a prince or king that got married to a Hungarian lady, and his name was Veszprém, and that's where the town name comes from. So it's a small town north of Lake Balaton, and the Buskers Festival is called, I think it's called Street Music Festival in English. Veszprém Street Music Festival. Well, hit me up. I'll send you a link if you need some guidance.
Köszönöm szépen.
Nagyon szívesen. Come on, anybody else?
Last question.
Oh, we managed to tell the whole story, everything, no questions.
But thank you for your attention and joining this panel, and see you tonight at Mescalina when we'll have a Hungarian showcase event with 3 Hungarian acts. And thank you for your time, and enjoy the lunch break, I guess, which is coming soon. Thank you.